John Miles said in his song, "Music was my first love and it'll be my last." That's true for me, but I'd have to swap music for specifically the Beatles. Sure, my record collection is huge, and there are some records I love more than any particular Beatles album, but the Beatles were my induction at age 3. They sparked my imagination, and that led to me being a journalist, an author, composer, TV producer, and now podcaster. Because I know I couldn't have done half of what I've done without their influence, I set up the Without the Beatles podcast and YouTube channel with Mark Cooper. Even in 3 short months, I've spoken to dozens of people who also blame and attribute the Beatles with sending them down certain paths. Mainstream media simply can't devote enough time to discussing these issues, and YouTube and podcasts have been a blessing for those of us who never want to stop exploring this world. And that's why I've put together a list of my personal choices for best Beatles-related channels. There are a couple of omissions because pure audio podcasts with no video element are out. And that's a shame because the obvious missing thing is Chris Shaw's I'm the Eggpod. It's finished, but it's the gold standard. If you haven't listened yet, then start at the beginning, work your way through. You're in for a treat. I'm also not going to include any of the official channels for the group or its solo members, but they are, of course, worth exploring. This is my very personal list of 10 YouTube-based channels that should prove interesting for any Beatles fans. So in no particular order, and that's why I'm using letters instead of numbers, Gear There and Everywhere is a group of similarly afflicted musos, Paul, Sam, Ryan, Dom and Michael, analysing the heck out of what instrument created what sound on whatever song they've chosen. It's anal. It's completely unnecessary. It's brilliant. I've watched every episode. I might even do something on my own instruments one day. So B, Parlogram auctions. Andrew knows far too much about Garrett and Lofthouse covers, matrix numbers and misspelled labels, but with his dry wit and inexhaustible knowledge, has expanded from simple collecting notes to critical reviews and documentary. Who didn't feel excited when he got Abbey Road to play back a master tape he found at auction? C, Fathom is a super talented instrument maker and musician from New Zealand, who also runs a weekly review, Vinyl Friday. Not only has she done quite a bit of Beatles, but recently made an absolutely outstanding cover of I Am the Walrus with homemade instruments, accompanied by a colourful, witty, superbly creative video. Links below. You must watch this. Apart from her obvious talents, Fathom is probably the most charismatic of all the Beatles commentators. She's completely infectious and in her enthusiasm, you know? Check. D, David Bennett piano. David has been entertaining and educating us on the inner workings of Beatles and other music for some time. I love his quizzes and how he pretends not to be a nerd when we all know he's going to guess that intro correctly from a 1-second sample before he's even started. His analysis is great, even if you don't like the Beatles. E, Clay Blair and Boulevard Recording. Clay is the Don. His series of films re-recording Beatles tracks as accurately as possible using the closest gear is a masterclass for any professional recording person. But my wife enjoyed them too, and she's not a musician. He's brilliant, engaging, and wears his expertise lightly, but it's as visible as Ringo's pink pepper cap. F, the Beatles vocal harmony. If you've ever admired that blend of George, John and Paul, then get your butt over to the Beatles vocal harmony. Galazio Frudua does for recreating the Beatles vocal harmonies what the awesome Mike Bocelli has done for recreating their guitar parts. He's simply brilliant at it, and will occasionally do guitar too. I have a funny story about Paul McCartney telling me off for playing Blackbird wrong, but if I'd seen Galazio's video first, I could have skipped the shame. G, Almost Beatles songs. This is a criminally underrated channel. They take snippets of the songs from the Get Back sessions, and there were a lot, and expertly finish them off. They even put a concert on. They do an amazing job, and Macca in particular should be listening to this. Might give him a few ideas for that rumoured new album. Highly professional videos, great content. H, Rick Beato's Everything Music channel. Rick's ubiquitous, but for a reason. The Beatles are his favourite band, and I really appreciate his analysis and views, even when I disagree with them. After all, everyone who hammers nails hits their thumb occasionally, and that's fine. But when he gets it right, most of the time, there's simply no one better at the moment. His interviews are a thing of beauty too. I, Vinyl Rewind. Eric Calero, based in LA, is awesome. It's like having David Lynch's younger brother reviewing your favourite records from the set of Pulp Fiction. I go to LA as often as work will allow, and there's a brilliant pop culture shop called Wacko in Hollywood based in the Soap Factory. Eric should be the proprietor. He's warm, engaging, authoritative on top of all that, and I think I've watched every episode. J, last but not least, Matt Williamson's Pop Goes the 60s is a brilliantly compelling channel in which Matt talks about 60s pop culture in general, which of course includes lots of Beatles related stuff. He keeps speculation to a minimum and is very well researched. None of you Beatle fans will get bored listening to Matt go through a specific incident reviewing a book or film. I love a lot of other channels too. Honourable mentions to Rhett Shaw, Paul Davids, Anthony Park, the guitarist I wish I was, Dr. Mick, the keyboard player I wish I was, producer Warren here, produced like a pro. Guess what he is that I wish I was, you know, but they're sporadic in their Beatles content. So hopefully if things go well for Without the Beatles in 2025, this time next year, I can stick K on the end of that list and put ourselves on there. But for now, I'm going to be listening to all of 10 of these continuously and, you know, regularly throughout the year. Some of them I'll listen to twice, especially Gear There and Everywhere. Do I need to remind you to hit the subscribe button? The reason people ask is it pushes the content to more people. It's not a money or ego thing. It's something practical you can do for free to help any channel you enjoy. I hope 2025 is kinder to the world than 2024 was. And we'll see you hopefully in some of our content as we drip it out over the year. We've got great stuff coming. There are interviews coming up with Nancy Sinatra, Sir David Attenborough, Al Jardine of the Beach Boys, Richie Sambora, many, many more, Michael Palin. And we've got a couple of new interviews that are being done right at the moment, which are mind-blowing. I can't tell you about them yet, but honestly, it's worth subscribing because you're not going to want to miss them. I've been Des Burkinshaw, along with my co-host Mark Cooper. We wish you a very happy 2025.